All right, we need to also review our basic exponent rules before we get any further into talking about exponential functions. These are the rules that you should already be very familiar with, but sometimes it's nice to kind of go back and review them just so that we can refresh. Our very first one says a to the s times a to the t equals a to the s plus t. A real example of that would be like saying something like x squared times x cubed would equal x to the fifth power. When you're multiplying like bases, you add the exponents. That's what that's saying. This next one says a to the s raised to the t power equals a to the st. Again, an example of that would be like saying x squared cubed would be the same thing as saying x to the sixth. Power to power, you would multiply those powers. This last one here on top says ab to the s power equals a to the s times b to the s. So, for example, that would be like saying x squared, or I'm sorry, xy squared would equal x squared y squared. This is a product raised to a power. Now notice, if we had x plus y squared, that does not equal x squared plus y squared. This is something different. In this case, we would actually have to write out our x plus y twice and multiply it, because that's something completely different. The reason that it works with this is because we would literally use that same idea of squaring. If we multiplied it to itself, then all we have here is multiplication. And we could rearrange this, say this is x times y times x times y, and because multiplication is commutative, we can do it in any order we want to. And that's why it's x squared, y squared. Just make sure that you're only doing this rule when we deal with products raised to a power, nothing else. Okay, this one, first one on the bottom row here says 1 to the s power equals 1. Any power that we raise 1 to, it's always going to be 1, because 1 times 1 times 1, however many times, will always be 1. This one in the middle on the bottom row here says a to the negative s equals 1 over a to the s equals 1 over a to the s. That's like saying, let's use an example of 2 here. 2 to the negative 3 power. That negative exponent says it's in the wrong position. We need to do the reciprocal. So that would be the same thing as saying 1 over 2 cubed. And then we could simplify that as to 1 over 8. But because 1 to any power is 1, we could also write this as 1 over 2 cubed. So that's what this rule is saying. And then our final one here says anything raised to the 0 power equals 1. So if I had 5 to the 0 power, that would be 1. X to the 0 power is 1. Anything raised to the 0 power is 1.